Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else watching. This is your host, Madman, and this is the official Madman commentary on one of my favorite movies of all time, The Last Unicorn. This is a 1982 film? Yes, 1982 animated film. It won some awards the year it came out for animation, but that's not important. What's important is the symbolism and the story behind this film. Those are the important things. It's why I've come back to this over and over and over again in my life. No matter how I'm feeling, no matter what's happened to me, no matter what anybody around me is going through that might be affecting me, if I watch this movie, it does good things to my brain. So, that's why I'm promoting it. That's why I'm drawing attention to it, because I think it is fundamentally good. I'm going to try to explain why. So, the art style in this is gorgeous. It's a particular animator or animation studio, the same one that did the early Lord of the Rings adaptation from the 70s. And it shares a lot of artistic similarities with the early Samurai Jack stuff, where it looks like they used stamps to sort of present these geometric, floral, or faunal images consistently. So I don't know if they used stamps in this or not. They may have just drawn things really fucking precisely, which is I think what they did. Again, this is way before CGI. This is a movie that was done by hand. It was done with human effort, without the HAL 9000 Satan machine, having any influence. Or if it did, it had minimal influence. As you can see, we have all these regular patterns in the leaves of the trees in this scene. The backgrounds in particular are done in a way that's very precise, but it's dedicated to beauty. It's precision, it's machinic, logical precision dedicated to human beauty, which is very fucking important. So we just had these two hunters, came into this forest, got a young guy and an old guy, and the young guy was like, well, I want to hunt. And the old guy goes, well, you probably shouldn't hunt here, because this forest is protected by a spirit, by a deity, by an entity, by a unicorn. This forest is sacred, it's holy in some way, and the game that you will try to hunt here will not obey your bow. It will not allow itself to be killed, because it's protected. And then we have this beautiful intro sequence. I can rant for a bit, thankfully. I can spam you with verbal crap. Anyway, this movie covers a lot of very important topics that are not covered by other animated films. And when you're trying to figure out what you should show your children, the Disney slop that is being produced now is a lot worse than this type of movie. Some of the Disney stuff is okay, some of the Pixar stuff is okay, in my opinion. But this movie is important. This movie is, in fact, I think, essential. It's vital in some way that this movie's aesthetic, the way it communicates its ideas, and the ideas themselves are worth passing on to the next generation ad infinitum, because this movie talks about a lot of fundamental aspects of human embodiment, of being here in a neat spacesuit. It talks about things metaphorically in a way that is good. It uses lies to tell truths. That's why it's good. That's why it's important. So, we have this narrative unfolding during this intro sequence. I'm going to say a few more things about it. This movie is talking about the concept of innocence and the concept of seeing things for what they truly are. So true sight and innocence are two concepts that this movie's trafficking in. It's also talking about mortality, love, suffering, and it's talking about the elderly's obsession with reobtaining some semblance of their youth that they've given up or lost. There's a character in this film that is an old man, and he is obsessed with innocence to the point of capturing and wanting to own things in reality that to him represent his own innocence. He is a vampiric asshole, but he's tragic. The movie has sympathy, even for him. The movie understands, or wants you as a viewer to understand, that the type of person that would do that to themselves, that would corrupt themselves to become a fucking vampire, they are obsessed with innocence. And the unicorn here, she represents innocence. She represents a childlike understanding of the world that surpasses older humans' understanding of reality. There is a power to innocence that is very true and very vulnerable. And when innocent souls incarnate in a way that allows them to express that power, they're immediately treated as targets, because there's a bunch of wrinkled old fucks floating around this reality, and their only reason for being here is they want to suck the energy of innocence out of you, because they themselves have made some dark bargain, and they have given up their soul, they have given up their innocence for some endeavor, some earthly material crap that is bullshit. And because they've given that up and they can't go back, and they've realized this, and they're dangerous for realizing it. The ones that don't realize they've made the shitty bargain, they're just on the fast track to hell. They don't matter. It's the ones that regret that they made a mistake. Those are the dangerous fucks. And you'll encounter these people in your life. It's a personality type. It's a type of person. We all do this to some degree. None of us are totally innocent. And that's another thing this movie talks about. Even this unicorn, this pure soul, is beset by sin, beset by flaw, beset by whatever term you'd like to use to represent the flawed nature of embodiment or existence. Everything is subject to that. So in this scene, I'm going to go back to the movie for a second. Our innocent character is being tempted by a butterfly, a sort of devil-may-care partier who wants her to go to Vegas and party for a while. Come to Vegas and party, and everything that happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You can party there without having to confess your sins. It's perfect. It's beautiful. That's not true. None of that's true. So we have this monarch butterfly, or this monarch butterfly-looking character, who's singing a whole bunch of songs. He's putting on a show. He's being a comedian. He's being a singer. He's being every type of illusion. Blah, blah, blah. Illusion is so cool. Why don't you give up your ignorance and your innocence to illusion instead of something higher, instead of something divine? Why don't you give it up to something material? I could talk about Project Monarch, but I've talked about that in other videos. Look it up for yourself. That shit is declassified. I'm not being a sort of crazy, risky red pill type person by talking about Project Monarch. That's been declassified for a while. Go look it up. It's a project intended to turn human beings into whores that can be used as bargaining chips politically by basically by Western governments that want to make deals with other governments, and they want to offer their young people as bargaining chips. It is sick. It is heinous. It is satanic. It is evil. That's what this scene is referring to. This is our unicorn character, our main character, being tempted by Project Monarch. He's singing to her. He's trying to hypnotize her. He's trying to get her to give up her body and herself. But our main character's smart enough. She starts asking him questions. She starts saying, well, maybe I'm a little tempted by you. Maybe, if you answer a question or two, I'll be your whore. And then the butterfly does something incredibly stupid and tells our main character, here's where your path is. Here's your challenge. Here's your life path to heaven. You have to fight and confront the Red Bull. A lot like Burnt Orange Heresy, we have a purplish blue character here. And she is she's feminine, she's weak. Whatever her gender expression is, whatever her soul is, she's a feminine soul. If she's in a male body, it doesn't matter. None of that shit matters in this movie's context. I'm not advocating trans shit. What I'm trying to talk about is the symbolism behind what the visuals are trying to communicate to you, okay? This character is a weak, vulnerable, young, innocent soul, and they are being beset by offers. They're being beset by alternate paths. There's a bunch of different shit happening to this character. They would rather just stay in their forest. Maybe that would have been best. Maybe it would have been best if the unicorn had actually said no to the hero's call, to the epic Jungian hero's journey. Maybe that's actually a path to hell. Maybe being a quote-unquote hero is actually a meme meant to damn you. That could be the case. I don't know. In this story, though, that's presented as a potential truth. That this unicorn made her first mistake by leaving the garden, by eating the apple, right? By forsaking her animal brethren, those souls she was trying to protect. Maybe she shouldn't have left. Maybe the world and her life would have been better if she'd never left. That's a possible interpretation, and that's why I love this film. But in this story, she chooses to leave. She says, all right, I will heed the hero's call. I will go out of my forest. I will endanger myself. I will weaken myself. I will subject myself to mortal struggles, to famine and exhaustion and loneliness and all this other crap. And over the course of this, she meets your average NPC, your average normie, this guy, this monk-looking fuck. He's shaved his head, he's some old farmer, whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna whip you with a belt, baby. I'm gonna tame you with violence. That's what you want, right? You're just another shitty, half-fallen soul. I can just beat you to death with my belt, and then you'll obey me. You'll do my bidding, because this world is shit. It's hell. And she goes, no, you fucking moron. I'm not gonna respond to violence as a way of educating me. What the fuck is wrong with you? It's because she's naive. It's because she hasn't been here before. Okay? That's why that doesn't work on her. And he's so blind, he's so polluted by material reality. He's so parasite infested. He's been raised in a culture of violence where beating someone is the only way of educating them. That is an ape brain, nightmare, hell type of thing. That he doesn't even see her for what she is. He doesn't even see that she has a horn. He doesn't even see that she's way more angelic than any other thing that he's come across. And same with this dwarven-looking dude. The unicorn is realizing no one sees reality for what it is. I was born with that ability. I can see through this shit. I don't need weed or some ayahuasca trip. I just see shit for shit. I know what reality is. I've known that since birth. Can you imagine the hell of leaving the garden, knowing that, and realizing how fucked everyone and everything else is? That is hell. This story, it's an analog for Dante's Inferno because our main character is this innocent soul that doesn't understand hell. And yet she's in it. Even in her protected forest, she's next to the gateway out of hell. She's either just entered that realm or she's about to leave. Regardless of where her position is, what direction she's going, that's where she is. She's right next to the exit. And because of that, she has a kind of insight that is damaging. It is a deleterious mind-raping, insanity-inducing kind of prescience about reality. She's walking through the rain here. My God, the soundtrack to this. America, shout out to the band, man. It's funny the band's name is America, isn't it? A band that is part of this movie where there's a young soul trying to navigate hell. It's almost like America is a space or an area or a realm or a level or a dimension where young souls come to have a taste of hell. Whether they're doing it to escape hell or whether they're doing it out of curiosity, it doesn't matter. It's funny that the band America writes the music for this movie. Now, here we have the introduction of Mummy Fortuna, the devouring mother, the witch, the evil woman, the equivalent of the male tyrant. And what this movie does that's so fantastic is it gives you this character first. It says, here's the female equivalent of the guy we're going to see later, who's a male tyrant. The female tyrant behaves this way. This is how a female tyrant gains thralls, gets power, manipulates, deceives, whatever. She finds this young soul and says, holy shit, I've stumbled upon a fallen angel. I've stumbled upon something that's very fucking rare. And she's got these two sort of soy boy cuck characters, these two gamers that are like, we'll do whatever you say, mommy. You're our mommy. And she goes, yeah, you fucking better, dude, or I'll curse you into female hell or whatever the fuck. And it's funny that the guy has this big nose, you know. There's certain religions and certain cultures that have matriarchal societies, and it's almost like those types of societies are ruled by witches, and their men are cucked from birth, perhaps through some sexual mutilation ritual, but I'm not being specific, but it's almost like they're controlled by witches who are evil and should be burnt. That's what Mummy Fortuna is. She represents this witch. She controls these idiot men and makes them into her little carnival thralls. She has this spectacle, this carnival that she's running. She's extracting money from people by performing magic tricks, by giving them a spectacle to see. And she's using these cucked, idiot, gelded NPC men as her little thralls that are meant to do nothing more than advance the illusion. Their only role in life is to go around saying, look at this snake, it's definitely a giant monster, it's a dragon. The snake is a big dragon, oh, the dragon of Revelations is so scary. Ooh, aboo, 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 aboo. You know, it's revealed in a minute. These are just starving animals in cages. That's the reality. There's nothing magical or celestial or apocalyptic going on. It's bullshit. It is meant to frighten you and distract you. It is emotional manipulation. And guess who is best at doing that? It's women. Even good women are good at that. They're supposed to be. That's the point. Okay? Direct competition, that was the realm of men in the Ooga Booga cave days when we had to kill things manually to eat them. Women exercised a non-muscle mass dependent version of that, which is called indirect competition. They used lies and manipulation. Those can be used for good, like when an artist uses them to incept good ideas into your brain without you knowing it. Like the people who made this movie. People who made this movie were using feminine deception, like any artist does. Any and every artist that's ever made anything, good or evil, has used feminine deception and indirect competition and psychological manipulation to tell you something, to scream it at your subconscious through your conscious mind. They're subverting your conscious mind and going directly to your unconscious. They're hacking your conscious mind to tell you something really fucking important. And this can be done in the name of evil. So you gotta watch out. You gotta develop subconscious and conscious defense mechanisms against bad shit. Anything makes you depressed, anything that makes you demoralized, anything that makes you feel like your life is not worth living, that is evil. That's obvious. But it's not obvious because it's incepted. It is programmed into you subtly. That's how that shit worms its way into your brain like a fucking parasite. But it's not a literal worm. It's metaphorical. Literally. It's done through metaphor. It's done through image. Burnt Orange Heresy talks about this. James Figueras was hypnotized and manipulated by a satanic freak. He was conned into ruining his own life. And unfortunately, what this movie says is that the West, which J.G. Ballard calls the Society of the Spectacle, or one of those authors calls it that, it's done through a fake carnival. It's literally Disneyland. Disneyland is this sequence of scenes that we're seeing. It's a bunch of caged animals being paraded in front of your eyes as demons or monsters or angels or whatever. It's bullshit. It is meant to geld and cuck you mentally, to soften your brain so that it can be infected by witch bullshit. It's not the men that do this, it's the women. The women who are evil. Their craft is illusion for the purpose of enthralling you. They are female vampires. Essentially, that's what they are. They're not literally vampires who will drink your blood, although some of them will. The point that this movie makes is that that's how they try to rape you. Like in my Shining video, women rape mentally, men rape physically. And this movie deals with both. It has an innocent soul. It's its main character. It has this unicorn who is she's pure to a fault. She's naive. She gets tricked multiple times because she hasn't been in the world. She's barely left the forest. She's so innocent. And this world is a giant rape machine. And she realizes this and she goes, my God, how can this be reality? How can this be where I am? You know? It do be like that sometimes. We've all been in points in our life when something evil shows its face and you realize, holy fuck, that's evil. How did I not see it? How was I so naive? If you're a good person, your weakness is naivety. And unfortunately, the only balm for that weakness is knowledge. And knowledge is fucking dangerous, man. Knowledge is like, there's a famous incident called Tickling the Dragon's Tail, where a bunch of nuclear scientists were experimenting, which is another word for playing, with a ball of enriched plutonium, and they fucked up. They made a mistake, and they all got blasted with demonic energy. They got cell rot, cancer. They died horrifically, and that's knowledge. That's what knowledge is. Knowledge is tickling the dragon's tail. You're licking the dragon's butthole, hoping it'll fart some knowledge into your sinuses that will be able to give you some advantage over your naivety. There are times when you have to maintain naivety, when you have to refuse knowledge, when you have to set up a fucking boundary or a limit in your mind or in your soul or whatever and say, I know enough. If I try to learn more, I will go insane. If I try to do more with knowledge, if I try to fuck around, it will be detrimental to me. I will not benefit from it. So, this scene's important. So we're going to rubber band our way back to the movie. Schmendrick the magician, of a certain origin, given the fact that his nose takes up 1/3 of his face, is saying, look, I know you don't trust anybody, but I can see that you're naive. I can see you need help. I'm serving a witch. I'm not in a great place in my life right now. I'm worshipping a female Lilith culture of witch worshippers. Again, not making any commentary about any particular religion or race or anything. But that's what he's doing. That's what he's saying in this movie. That's his role. He's saying, look, I've got a pointy hat. I got a big nose. I'm worshipping dark-haired witchy woman. But the innocence of your soul is so profound to me that I'm going to betray my employment. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to go out of my way to help you because you are really in trouble. You're not supposed to be here. You're too innocent. You're too pure to be in this hell. You don't belong here. You went on a tour and you got stuck or whatever. I will use my magic, half-assed as it is, because this guy sucks as a magician. He's a shit magician. He sucks. But he's like, oh my God, I cannot morally allow you to be here. You shouldn't be here. I'm gonna break you out of this prison of reality. I will do whatever I can to do it. But I have to talk about something. It's a bit of a tangent. As if I've never gone off on a tangent before. The book that this is based on, it's by a guy named Peter S. Beagle. He's a California author. The book is the same. It's called The Last Unicorn. Schmendrick is basically diluted in the film adaptation, in this animation. The author was given a role in determining what scenes would exist and what dialogue would happen. So props to the makers of this movie for actually letting the author have input. That's a big deal. That's not common. These days, it's practically unprecedented. Schmendrick's character in the book is apparently a lot more complex, and we get a lot more of his backstory in the book. I have not finished reading the book. I started reading it and was interrupted. Kind of like how Gandalf was delayed in Lord of the Rings by Saruman, you know. My attempt to read that book was fucked with by fate. So I have yet to revisit it. But I will. I'll read it eventually. The point is that Schmendrick's character is more complex in the book, and we get a sense of why he has shitty magic powers. We have this whole backstory that's not presented because of, you know, in the interest of time for this movie. Now, here's our other little male slave. And Schmendrick is finally like, you're an idiot, dude. Stop simping for a witch. Stop being Jack Torrance in The Shining and making out with a rotting female corpse. That's not a good idea. Fuck you. And despite the fact that this guy looks a lot stronger, he's like, fuck it, I gotta fight this guy. I gotta do whatever I can, you know? And he almost gets killed. The guy's gonna strangle him. This movie's fucked. This is a kid's movie, and there's like abused animals in cages and dudes straight up trying to strangle each other. It's a big fucking deal. And again, we have the monkey and the snake. They're just animals. They don't represent anything. The religious narratives that try to make these things out to be metaphoric, magical, mental rape, fake bullshit to you are just trying to fuck with you. They're just trying to enthrall you. A snake is just a snake. A monkey is just a monkey. That's it. That's the truth. The truth is boring. The truth is just as boring as it is dangerous. This movie is showing you that you've been mentally raped. You've been subject to illusions from all sorts of sources. Sciences, political movements, religions, fandoms, cults. All of it is lies. Just look at the world as the world. Shit is what it is. That's the truth. You don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. Like this unicorn, you will be attacked by illusions. The harpy will descend upon you with its claws out. It will try to take your soul. Your soul is real. It's as real as the world. But the world is not some meme that some witch or some warlock or politician or cult leader or whatever will tell you a story about. The story is a self-serving thing. The person who made up the story wants you to believe it. They want you as their little cuck. They want to fuck with you and suck your energy. That's what storytellers do. Unfortunately, most of them do that. The ones that don't are the grandpas and the grandmas who are benevolent, who want to pass on cultural or social information through stories. That's the only good way to use a story. The evil way to use it, which is how they're used now predominantly, is just to hypnotize you, to enthrall you, to fuck with you. And the people that fall prey to these cons are the unicorns. They are innocent, young souls who have not been here. It's their first or second round on the wheel of samsara. Oh yes, it is totally true, the Buddhist method, blah, 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 blah. That could be bullshit. The point is, there's a grain of truth to it, which is that certain people, despite their physical age, are ignorant. And they're sensitive. They might not be stupid, but they're weak. They have a sensitivity that requires careful handling. It's almost like a lot of those people turn out to be actors. And that's why we have a meme in the West where actors have handlers. They have wiser, older souls orbiting them that are trying to keep them from going deeper into hell. And that's true of any young soul, any unicorn. Notice that she's pale white. She's got a sort of Star of Babylon on her forehead. It's an 8-pointed star. But the vertical and horizontal points of the star extend out farther than the X shape in the center. That is a Akkadian symbol. It's very ancient. Represents an old soul. She's got a horn poking out. It's almost like her pineal gland is crazy obvious. And it attracts unwanted attention. Whether it's calcified or not, it's big. She's got a big antenna poking out of her head. She's a target for evil shit. She needs protection. She needs help. And luckily, thank fuck, she stumbled across Schmendrick. And she helped him, in turn, by presenting herself, simply by being there, simply by leaving the forest. She saved Schmendrick from the witch. She saved this poor blue-clad motherfucker from the witch that was enthralling him just by being there. All she had to do was exist. Existence is her burden, her challenge. She has a tough time getting up in the morning. She has a tough time being here. Don't ask more of her than that. Don't demand she work a 9 to 5. God help you if you demand that of her. She's working 10 9 to 5s simultaneously every day just by being here. Help her out is what this movie is trying to say. Now, here we have a fun scene. We have these sort of bandits, and our heroes are going to hide in the trees. It's raining ninnies. I fucking love that line. It's raining silly billies. Oh, they got their little KKK hats on. Ho, ho, ho. This guy's a cook for some Semitic witch. Let's drag him back to camp and fuck him up. And she goes, no, I'm not going to let you do that. Now, here's the first mention of King Haggard. Well, it's the first visual mention. That's our epic vampire male who is floating around in this shitball reality. And we'll see him soon enough. He's voiced by the immaculate, the beautiful, the godlike Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee, he is a real one. He's a good one. Now, these people are meant to be the realistic analog of Robin Hood. This guy is a bandit. He's a thief. He worships Robin Hood, whose credo or idea was, of course, oh, well, I'll take from the rich and give to the poor. The reality of it is the poor are just as scummy as the rich. They're just scummy in a different way. So this guy, he's hypnotized by the ideal or the idea of Robin Hood. He's like, I'm a hero. I steal from people, but I do it for good. And maybe that's true. Maybe these poor fucks, maybe they're rejects of society, and maybe they're, war veterans. They're like our homeless in the West. And they're kind of been fucked and discarded by society. No one wants to take care of them. This guy, this red-bearded Scottish-looking fuck, has said, I'll take care of him. I will steal from the rich if it means I can help out these poor fucks. That's a good interpretation. This movie is about innocence versus reality. The reality is what this guy's living. He's living in the woods, starving to death, eating rats, because he wants to help people. And maybe these people don't deserve his help. Maybe he's a poor judge of character. Whatever the case, the movie portrays him as an idealistic hobo. He's basically rejected the system. And let me tell you, King Haggard's system is not a very good system. I don't blame him for rejecting it. If your alternative is starve to death under the aegis of a vampire or starve to death in the woods, I'd rather starve to death in the woods, personally. You know, I understand Captain Cully's his fit, you know. I get it. I do get it. But, you know, these people are suffering. They are thin. They are wasting away. And poor Molly Grew, my God, I have a friend who this character reminds me of. She is so good-hearted. She would fucking kill herself to help people. She's a saint. And her job in real life is to help abused kids. She counsels them. I mean, I'm not worthy, you know. I'm not worthy of Molly Grew. She's a good soul. She deserves heaven, nothing less. To indulge in a Judeo-Christian religious metaphor that I know is a metaphor. Anyway, so because this wizard's wandered in, he is able to channel this blue-eyed person. Interesting that he has blue eyes. He says, oh, you guys want to see Robin Hood? Okay, I'll fucking conjure him. I'll straight up show him to you. I'll make an AI-generated Robin Hood doujin. I'll make a movie about Robin Hood for you to watch. I'll present to you with a little fake incarnation of your ideals. And I'll hypnotize you with it because you are kind of wallowing in shit. I sympathize with you. I will give you an illusion. And he says, magic, do as you will, when he casts the spell. He suspends his intent. He doesn't specifically think of Robin Hood in his own mind. He says, I'm going to let the magic come through me and use me like a crystal that light is flashed through to project an image. I will be the projection crystal for this idea. And they all go nuts, they all freak out, they all run into the woods, you know. They're not ready for the illusion. It's too potent, it's too real, it's too good. They're too stupid. But this guy's so excited. He's like, my God, I really am a magician. But then Captain Cully's like, what the fuck did you do to my men? Why did you hypnotize my men? And he's like, motherfucker, I just gave them what they wanted. You wanted it too. And so like, I forget what the character in Norse folklore is. I think it's Odin. It's one of the Nordic figures. There's a scene in Norse folklore where a god is tied to a tree as a punishment, and he's left there to starve. The depiction of Christ on the cross, which is made of wood, by the way, is a Nordic meme that was remixed or repurposed. This scene in this movie is directly summoning up that imagery in terms of its religious sources. It is saying, here's a character who's an illusionist, a magician, like Christ, like Loki, whatever, whoever it is. His punishment was that the local golems, the local ook grug people, were not impressed by his illusion. They were frightened by it, so they killed him for it. And the way they killed him was they tied him to a tree. This movie is evoking that mythological symbolism. This fucking magician is being tied to a tree. Okay? Now this scene is very bizarre and creepy and kind of lurid, obviously. The tree is portrayed as some sort of mother figure. Like, the punishment for being a magician is that you're going to be killed by a mother figure. Very weird. I don't know about that. I have no knowledge about the legitimacy of that or its connections to other mythological narratives that are similar. I don't know about that. The point is, this movie, he tries to escape. That's what makes the tree animate, is he says, get me out of these ropes. You know, break my bindings. How can I break my bindings after having been too good of a magician? and been punished by normies. Well, I'll try to cast a spell. Oops, the spell I cast turned my cross, or my tree, into a devouring mother figure. Kinda like the witch that enthralled this guy. Remember that he was working for an evil woman. There was a devouring mother, an evil mother figure that had captured this guy in the Mummy Fortuna part of the story. And then when he tries to escape, when he tries to cast a spell, it's like, oh, I'll use the poetry my mom read to me when I was a kid to try to escape these bonds. That's just going to repeat your enslavement. It's not going to free you, my dude, right? And here we have the scene. This scene makes me fucking cry, man. Molly Grew finding the unicorn. And she's so haggard, ironically. She's nothing to do with King Haggard, but her life has been such a fucking struggle, man. She's so worn out, and she's like, if I could have just seen a glimpse of you when I was young, if you would have shown yourself to me when I was young, I wouldn't have become the whore of a wannabe Robin Hood. I wouldn't have found some shitty man. I would have had faith in myself. I would have preserved my own innocence. She would have preserved her own innocence as a woman, sexually, whatever, in every connotation, if she could have seen a glimpse of an avatar of innocence, of something that came to her and said, you don't have to fuck around. You don't have to be a whore. You can just be you. You can be innocent and not be fragile. But the unicorn hadn't left its forest. It hadn't escaped. The timing was off in the story. So Molly Grew, she had to live the life she lived to meet the unicorn. She had to suffer in order to finally see her. And I love this. She's like, you guys aren't even on the right path. You guys are going the total wrong way. You're going to end up back with Mummy Fortuna if you go down that path. No. You got to go into the wasteland. You got to go into the land of King Haggard. This is America. This is my vision for America. It's the best place. I love innocence. I collect it. I know the land is a little rocky, but that's okay. Doesn't matter as long as the castle is cool, as long as I have all the unicorns under my thumb. That's what power is. Power is controlling innocence. I control all the innocence, frankly. I am a giant vampire retard, and I destroy my own self and my society because I want to control innocence. That's my credo. That's the platform I'm running on. Unfortunately, Joe's the same. We're both vampires. We're just different colors of vampires, so you should probably kill both of us and not vote for us and pick somebody else. Anybody else would be better than us. That's what the movie's saying to me, guys. That's all I'm saying. So again, we have the beautiful song by the band America, and we have the Ring of Fire. We have Satan. And Satan is the Red Bull, the bull of capitalism. This movie is not a communist propaganda film. What's great about it, in part, is that it doesn't succumb to that. What it does say is that anything worshipping a bull, whether it's ancient Greeks who build fake bulls as execution methods for people to boil them inside, or people who worship golden calves, or people who build bull statues in urban centers that represent capitalism, are worshipping this. They are King Haggard's minions. They are his vampire thralls. And the unicorn is terrified. She's never seen this thing before. My God, what else would she do but run? Every fiber of her being is telling her, you're not ready to fight this thing. You gotta run. And she's right to run. She's right not to fight before her time. She's not ready. But we have Molly Grew, and we have Schmendrick. We have the good Semitic wizard, the one who betrayed his Lilith mother, kind of like Christ. He's a Semitic wizard who betrayed his teachers because he saw that they were fucked. So he said, no, I'm leaving. And then we have Molly Grew, who is part of a roving band trying to help people. And she too left her husband. She left the people she was trying to help. She said, this unicorn, this is my calling. This being needs my help way more than the others do. And now Schmendrick, he's like, I'm not confident. Like, I'm half-assed as a wizard. I got demoted, or my powers got, halved or something. I did something stupid, and my wizard mentors took away my powers. Whatever the case is from the book, something happened to this guy where he was a more powerful wizard before, and he got sort of demoted. He had his memory erased, whatever. So he doesn't quite know how to use magic, but he's going to try. He's like, I have to try. And now the unicorn is like, oh God, I'm dead. I can't fight this thing. This force is too much. I can't even run. But then Schmendrick comes through in the clutch. Schmendrick comes through in the clutch. He calls forth Thor's power of lightning. He lets the magic do as it will, channels it through himself. He rids himself of intent, and by doing so, he lets reality become what it was supposed to be. Instead of trying to control fate or destiny, he uses himself as a conduit, or allows himself to be used, and by doing so, he does a better job than he would have if he had done something with intent. He suspends his intent, and the power of magic, the genius, is able to turn our unicorn into a human woman. And the bull can't sniff her out. And Molly Grew rightly is like, dude, you fucked up. This is bad. Like, she's gonna go nuts in this body. You put her in a human body? What the fuck is wrong with you? How could you do that? She's never gonna cope with this. And Schmendrick in this scene, he's a little arrogant. He's like, I just channeled magic. He's like Seinfeld. He's like, George, I just channeled magic. Jerry, are you sure you did that? And then Kramer bursts in. Jerry, are you sure turning him into a woman was the right thing to do? And he goes, yes, of course, the magic told me to do it. It was perfect. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I'm dating a 17-year-old. Beat, beat, boot, boot, beat. It's a fucking Seinfeld bass line. God, this scene of her walking. He's like, I can change your back, I promise. Don't worry about it. Beep, beep, ba-ding. King Haggard is the fucking soup Nazi. He's like, no unicorns for you. Her purple eyes. God, this poor soul. Her forehead permanently has that star shape on it forever. It's burned into her forehead. Her third eye, her pineal gland, is this nightmarishly over-evolved thing. And she's like, why couldn't you have just let capitalism eat me? Why couldn't you have just let me die? I want to die. I don't want to be in this body. This is hell. And he's like, it was this or you would actually have been killed. Like, this was the only option, man. This was it. And Molly Grew's doubtful. She's like, well, couldn't you have done something else? And he's like, bitch, I'm a wizard, okay? Might be a half-assed wizard, but you're not a wizard. You make rat soup for a living. Give me a break. The older I get, the more I'm like, Schmendrick's right. Like, he's scuffed. He's a scuffed magician. But at least he did some good, man. At least he did the right thing. Molly Grew is sort of a bit incredulous to a fault here. She's merciful, which gives her incredulity as a side effect. You know, she's feminine. She's a woman. You know, she's merciful to a fault, as you should be as a woman. Men lack mercy to a fault because we kill shit. Now, let's rubber band ourselves back to the movie for a second here. We have King Haggard's epic, decrepit palace. Schmendrick is like, we really need to talk to whoever the fuck's in charge here, because there's some serious shit going on. And these two guards lead them in. Molly Grew leads her over the sea, like, I know you want to kill yourself by jumping onto the rocks, but please don't. That will make things 10 times worse. And all the columns, everything's twisted in Haggard's palace. It's all very Dark Souls looking. I fucking love the aesthetic of this because it reminds me of Dark Souls, and I love Dark Souls because it reminds me of this. The palace is half alive. It's a representation of Haggard's mental and physical decay. He is a rotting vampire. He is a creep. But he has a son. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed son. And he says, oh, hey, can we work for you? You know, we need to be here to solve the mystery. And he says,
I have ADHD and I need to browse TikTok constantly or I feel like I want to die.
His attention span is nothing. He's a bored, spoiled, rich elite who has no sense of beauty and no sense of attention left. He is brain rotted. But he's been brain rotted by his own desire to preserve his innocence at all costs. And instead of preserving it, he's given it up. He has become a vampire. And vampires, metaphorically speaking, they don't really feed on blood. They don't really feed on psychic energy. What they feed on is youth or innocence. They are creatures that want to vicariously live through the youthful vitality of others. That's what blood drinking represents. Some of them literally do it. There are people right now who literally do that. That's how fucked the world is. That's real. There are people who do that. That's corny. Vampires, what they really want to feed on is youthful energy. It's young souls. Souls of children, for example. That's what this guy is. He is a creepy guy who looks a little bit like Joe Biden. Not making any comment about that person, but this guy reminds me of Joe Biden for some reason. And he has this court wizard who's just some random wizard. He's like, I'll work for whoever, I don't care. I have magic defenses. I'm a dragon. I'll work for anybody. I have a dragon staff. I'm a dragon for hire. And he's like, I can work for you without succumbing to your crap. But the minute he spurgs out, he says, holy shit, there's a soul here so pure that just by being here, it's defensive. It's immune to my magic. My bullshit bounces right off of it. It's like oil and water. I can't cast any spells on it. This thing is an anomaly. And he warns Haggard, he's like, bro, you've let something into your kingdom that's going to kill you. No matter what. I could even tell you about it. He's like, I'll even tell you about it right now. Hey, Haggard, you're about to be killed. He's like, it doesn't even matter if I tell you. You're going to let yourself be killed anyway. You're already fucked. You've already lost. That's what he's saying. It doesn't matter if there's any disclosure. It doesn't matter. You're already done. Just by letting this thing in, you've doomed yourself. There's no way out. There's no timeline or reality where you win. You have cut them off. You are trapped. You are fucked. Now he starts to sense. He's like,
There's something strange about this bitch. Where did you find her? What brothel did you extract her from?
And they're like, oh, it's my niece. She's the niece of a blue-eyed wizard. And he goes, okay, you can come and go as you please. My secrets guard themselves. That is one of the best lines in any animated film. The arrogance, the overconfidence of the secret keepers, whoever they are, to think that truth won't find their bullshit. All things are brought into the light. What is it? All that happens in the dark is brought to light. There's some quote, I think it's a biblical quote, something like that. Hagrid is so fucking arrogant that he's like, no, my secrets are perfect. They're protected. There's nobody who could find them out. The starlight onto the plate. So many beautiful transitions in this that combine magical and ethereal and astrological imagery with like the mundane or what is the term? It's the mundane. It's like washing dishes, that type of shit. Hagrid's ravens are watching everybody. Creepy yellow eyes, little fucking surveillance drones. Yeah, I see you, little fuck. You're obvious. China killed all their birds. What did they replace them with? That's all I'm saying. And oh, the dragon of revelations. Oh, the world's ending again. That's never been predicted before. It's never been a psyop that the world's going to end. That's never happened 500 times before this. The world does not end. There's no easy out. Anyone wanting the world to end wants an easy out. Or they want you to be afraid. Those are the only two reasons for those narratives gaining support. You want the world to end? Oh, you what? You want a reset of things? It's not going to happen. It never happens. Shit goes on. It goes on. Is that worse? If you're an evil piece of shit, it is. Because your torture is going to be prolonged as long as you want it to be. This world doesn't die. It doesn't end. It goes on and on and on. And I love Hagrid. He's like,
this is bullshit. I should be watching Netflix, but it doesn't exist.
God damn. His palace is like a Lovecraftian Shoggoth. It's like this shape-shifting horror show. Now, there's something I want to talk about in this scene. This is an interpretation I've never heard anybody else talk about. So, I'm going to give you my epic occult knowledge about this film. He's cutting potatoes. Lear is. He's also criticizing himself. He's being self-critical to a point where he's demotivating himself. What Molyneux says to him is to cut away from himself, not towards. That is a brilliant poetic line of dialogue, because what she's telling him with the potato cutting metaphor, she's saying stop being so critical of yourself because you're cucking yourself, you're demotivating yourself, you're diminishing your own evaluation of your abilities to a fault. You're doing the opposite of what a prideful person would do. You are being too self-critical. That's what she's trying to tell him. And the movie accomplishes that exchange of information through a metaphor, which is peeling fucking potatoes. I love it. I love it. And again, he's attracted to our unicorn. He's attracted to this avatar of innocence. And she's so autistic that she's not able to understand human embodiment or pairing pair bonding, mating, sex, whatever. And she's realizing, she's like, I know I was something else before I was this. And my memories colliding with this human brain, it's fucking with me. Something is wrong. I have fucking body dysmorphia, for real. Legitimately. You know, she's not like, I want to become a tranny. She's saying, I was something else, and now I'm this. How the fuck do I cope with this? How the fuck do I exist? And of course, she's tortured by images of her former self. There's paintings of fucking unicorns everywhere, because Haggard is a horse fucker. He's an MLP fan. Whatever. To our left, we have the same medieval tapestry with the lions that have humanoid faces, which is, of course, a reference to her transformation from a unicorn into a person. And Molly Grew is witness to this. It's like torture. It's like looking at her younger self. This is her younger self trying to figure out who she was. And Molly Grew is forced to see it again. She's looking at a representation of herself. Again, her character kind of gets sidelined after the rat soup scene, but I really think her character is important. Her character is meant to be a part of this story, and the story kind of mistreats her. The story kind of undervalues her position. At least the film adaptation does. In the book, I don't know. I got about halfway through the book. That's a book I have to reread. Soon, I think. I have to check that out. And again, the sun is like the Red Bull, setting into the sea. Fire and water, alchemy, all that type of shit. And Schmendrick's doing his research, he's trying to figure shit out, and she's like, I don't know if he's gonna succeed. He's not a magician, he's a slave to the king. And she's like, he's fucking performing. He's playing the fool just to give you time, And again, we have a unicorn and a dragon or a snake in this scene, in that hallway. I love the cat too, man. The cat is the best. The black and white Illuminati checkboard cat. He's like, that's perfectly well. He's like this old pirate, man. I want to be this guy. What a great role to play. To be the cat pirate. That's fucking great, man. She is very beautiful. No cat out of its first fur can be deceived by appearances. And again, like the unicorn, this being, this entity that's in this cat, because it's not a run-of-the-mill cat, it's something else, right? Clearly. It's a fantasy universe. The cat is saying, I'm like the unicorn. I see through bullshit. I see the world for what it really is. I can see this shit. Doesn't mean I'm ready to fight it, but I can see it. And he's going, she's got to confront hell. She's got to go right down to the bowl. And she's like, Molly Grew's like, how the fuck did she get there? And he's like, hearty closely, mum. When the wine drinks itself, when the skull speaks, and when the clock strikes the right time. Very Masonic Oddfellows type of metaphors here, with skulls and wine and all sorts of crap. I don't know if that's legit. Maybe it is. Personally, I'm inclined to be suspicious of that shit. Suspicion has served me well in life. It's never... Well, maybe it has done me wrong. Maybe I have to be less suspicious. I don't know. And he moves his eye patch. Left eye, right eye. That's another secret society type thing. Some of those secret societies can be traced back to early Christian cryptography and hidden metaphor when Christians were emerging in Roman society. They had to hide their affinity for one another. They had to make the Sator Arepo square type shit. They had to do that to to sort of hide. If modern secret societies are an extension or an expression of that, then okay. Maybe they're okay. Doesn't make me any more inclined to be sympathetic to them. Everything's been infiltrated these days, man. There are worms and viruses and parasites and demons everywhere, you know. Even if you're on your own, you gotta contend with that shit, though. So, maybe, maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I gotta just swallow my pride and swallow my fear. That's the thing I have trouble swallowing, is the fear. I'm so fucking scared, man. You wouldn't believe it. It's leopard in the woods levels of anxiety. It's life or death type of fear. It's not, I'm anxious because I got to give a speech. Blah, blah, blah. I might be embarrassed. Oh, I might be ashamed. That's not the fear I deal with. The fear I deal with is you're going to die. Fear of death. Now, enough of that crap. King Lear, or Prince Lear, this is before the Shakespeare play, which I love. This movie does that. It's like a prequel to King Lear. It makes complete sense. The beautiful thing about this is if you know the narrative of King Lear, growing up into an old man who's obsessed with his daughters loving him, which is what the narrative of King Lear is, that is perfect. This movie is a subtle, lost Shakespeare play. It is King Lear falling in love with innocence itself, which is what King Haggard does. It's the same fault. And despite the fact that this guy's a bastard and he's not King Lear's actual son, it's how he was raised. He was raised by King Haggard, who was obsessed with innocence. And so he became obsessed with it. And then this woman coming into his life, same shit. It makes sense that after the narrative of this movie and a book that it was based on end, that this guy would become the King Lear. He would behave exactly the same. That's why this is so genius, because it's a subtle hidden prequel to a Shakespeare play. And it's good enough, I think, to be put on par with those plays. It's very fucking good. And then here, we sort of have, this is corny. This is like a Disney scene. This is whoever made this or whoever animated it trying to elevate the film to the status of a Disney film so that it would get more views. That, it is what it is. It's corny, This is one of the weaker parts of the movie, because the movie's better than this. The movie has more things to say that are more interesting than most Disney films, but it has to have this romantic, idyllic, Disney scene. Has to have it. And what's interesting too, the lyrics in this, the vocal performance is a bit scuffed. There's some notes that aren't quite hit, but what she's saying is, now that I'm a woman, that's all I have to say. So she's admitting to him, my femininity is limiting my ability to speak. It's limiting my ability to express myself. She's acknowledging that there's a limitation. And that's true. And he's saying the same thing. He's saying, I'm a guy, I'm a man. I can't speak to you like a woman would speak to you. I'm limited by my biology. That's beautiful. The mutual admission of biological limitation. That's a very cold and scientific way to look at love, but it's true. They're telling each other, I'm okay with you seeing my weaknesses. I'm a man. These are my weaknesses. And she's saying, I'm a woman. These are my weaknesses. I trust you. I'm going to tell you my weaknesses. That's love. I have a theory, personally, that love is really a roundabout euphemism for trust. And I think trust is actual love. If you trust somebody, you love them. If you can't love someone without trusting them, right? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine loving someone without trusting them? You can't, can you? Well, that means love is contingent upon trust. And that means that the word trust is the real word for love. The real word for love is trust. If you tell somebody, I trust you, what you're really saying is, I love you. And if you say, I love you, you could be saying anything. It's bullshit. It's a Hallmark card. It's an illusion. It's fake. Trust is the real love. Now, here we have an important scene. Hagrid is getting a little handsy with our purple-eyed unicorn here. He's getting a bit desperate. He's like, I know what you are. I see you. The five eyes can see you, you little fuck. I knew you were coming here. I'm a genius. I'm prescient. I'm God. Blah, 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 blah. He's being arrogant. He's being an idiot. And even if you told him that, even if in this video I was talking directly to King Hagrid, he still wouldn't accept what I'm saying. He's possessed. He's fucked. He's already lost. But he tells our main character, he says, look at the sea. Look at the tide. There they are. That's where all your kin are trapped. They're trapped in the ocean. They're lost Atlanteans. They're Cthulhuoids. They're whatever. I wanted them there. I drove them there. I trapped them there to eternally entertain me with their struggle. This is the demiurge admitting to Sophia, I trapped all these souls here because it entertains me to watch them suffer. They're suffering in the tides of fate, the tides of reality, the ocean of matter. They are here to suffer for my amusement because I find their innocence fascinating. It's not that he's attracted to it in any carnal sense. He's entertained. Satan, in other words, is entertained by our suffering. We go in and out on the tide. The Red Bull scares us into staying in the ocean, staying in material reality, staying in hell. Scares us into being here. And it's out of fear that we stay trapped. And she goes, how could you do this? I don't even understand how this system could exist. I can't even see it. I won't see it. I can't see it because I'm too innocent. I'm too trusting. I'm too hopeful. I can't see the truth. It's too much. And he goes, how can you be ignorant? How can you not see the Divine Comedy? How can you not see the nature of reality? You can't. But he goes,
you've been drinking fluoride and you can't see anything. My God, you've become an NPC. Maybe you're not a unicorn. If you could become enthralled by my own magic, then you can't be.
But he says, no, you're just hiding. I can wait. Yeah, bro, your time's already come. Your fate's written. You're fucked. You know, it's going to take some time, but don't worry. You'll be given the death you deserve. And Schmendrick says, I know I did this to you. I'm sorry. But hey, I figured shit out. Let's walk across the Illuminati Secret Society checkerboard of this floor and talk to the Oddfellow's skull and see what he has to say. Ooh, what could he be saying? And he goes, I love this fucker, man. This is great. This is like my fate is to be this poor fuck. The talking skeleton. I get to laugh and drink wine and tell people riddles. You know, there's worse levels of hell to be consigned to, you know. If I have to do this, or if I already have done it, there's worse things, you know. There's some fun to be had being the skeleton. And he's like, answer the riddle. And he's trolling them. He's basically being a clown, he's being a jester, he's being a troll, he's being a comedian, you know. My weakness is, I want to be a comedian. I think teaching people things through comedy is useful, because the people that need to hear the truth the most oftentimes will be so stubborn that they will only accept that truth if you tell it to them comedically. If you try to tell it to them rationally, logically, whatever, they're not going to accept it. The way to break through the stubbornness of people who need to hear the truth and are stubbornly resistant to it is to be a comedian. And there are times, there are eras where the most moral thing to do is to be a comedian. And again, I'm not revealing anything anybody doesn't already know. I'm not giving away the epic secrets. Anyone who hears this, who shouldn't hear it, will not interpret it the way they should. They're deaf. I'm talking to the people who need to hear this, and nobody else. Anybody else who hears this, who has nefarious intent, will misinterpret it. Even if I admit that, it doesn't matter. You've already failed. You've already misinterpreted what I was trying to say. I wasn't saying what you thought I was saying, is what I'm saying. Just give me a glass of water and tell me it's wine, and I'll get drunk. I love this. This is so good. The trick with the wine. Perfect. Perfectly communicated in this movie. Beautifully done. The secret society skeleton is addicted to a red liquid, almost like blood, almost like they're all vampire cults and should be burned to the ground. He goes, oh, but I want the wine. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm a vampire. All I do is read books and drink wine all day, which is actually secretly blood. It's not to say you should become a vegetarian. That's the opposite. Hell. You become a mentally dead drone. It's almost like you should just eat animal meat. You know? It's almost like the Bible when it said, God put animals here to replace humans and satiate your vampire bloodlust in a way that is not evil or is minimally evil, and you should go ahead and eat those things. It's almost like that's the truth. And anyone who says, well, you should reject that and eat vegetables and rot your brain and be a drone, that's wrong. Also, if you reject that and eat human blood, that's also wrong. It's almost like those are the two incorrect extremes of the very obvious balance that is human existence. And it's not difficult to adhere to that balance. It's in fact extremely obvious. And if you haven't figured that out by now, you're going to be sorted into a camp which is mediated by illusion that puts you where you want to be, which is in one or another version of hell. Whereas if you just keep your head and lead a balanced existence and be a non-idiot, you'll be fine. The barrier for entry is pretty fucking low, guys. Now, that having been said, the skull is angry. He's like, there's a unicorn that we wanted to join the cult of evil, and it's running away. And so King Biden is running away with his sword. Oh, yes, you're an old man. You're animated by adrenochrome. Biden and Trump are the same bullshit. They're part of the same crap. They look different. They act different. But when you really look at what they are and who they are, they're the same kind of con artist, vampire, decrepit hellspawn. And they should both be burned. Maybe not in public. You know, I'm not an advocate of the spectacle of execution that was popular in the Middle Ages, but you know, for those two specific people, I think it'd be pretty fun. I think tying them both up to the same wooden pillar, like two snakes wrapped around a pillar, I think tying Trump and Biden to the same wooden pillar and burning them alive in public would be good. I think that would be a good thing. I think they both deserve that fate. They want their lives to be a public spectacle. Well, they will be. Right up until your death. Even your death will be a spectacle. Wouldn't that give you the attention you've been seeking? Wouldn't that give you all the thralls you've wanted? Wouldn't that give you all the holy, divine, satanic blood and attention that you've spent your whole life simping for? If you were each tied to the same wooden pillar with rope and burned alive, and the public could take back the energy you've taken from them through your screams of pain, through your death knells. The two snakes on the hermetic staff, wouldn't that be fitting if those two were those two snakes? The same ilk with a different coat of paint on top. We are so sick of this illusion. If that happened, that just might be the salvation that keeps the tarred meteors from blasting us all to oblivion. Maybe those two old snakes need to die. But maybe I'm just insane. Don't listen to anything I'm saying. This is all just comedic suggestion. This is not real. What I'm saying is just as false as this movie. It is an animated film. It is fake. Now, here we have a moment of doubt where our purple-eyed unicorn is going, I would rather just have a husband and a family and be a human being. I would rather just be normal. Can't I do that? Am I really destined to be some kind of freak? Can't I have a normal life? And everyone else in the party is like, no, that's not your destiny. You want that, but it's not for you. And that's a hell of a thing to accept, man. To go against your biology, your desire to breathe, your desire to be a normal, healthy human being, to inhabit your ape body as an ape, and to do what it wants, and to adhere to the moral standards of the society that you were raised in. That's the normative thing. Everybody wants to do that. But when every force in your life and every friend of yours is telling you that's not for you, even so, even with that support, that's a hell of a fate, man. That's a hell of a destiny. Especially if you're this poor unicorn who just got here, you know. Here we have the Red Bull appearing once again. The horns of hell. God. This movie is so good, man. If you want your kids to grow up and be morally effective beings, show them this. This is incepting the right ideas. This is good. Everybody at some point in their life has felt like Amalthea. Everybody at some point in their life has felt like Schmendrick. Everybody at some point in their life has felt like Lear. Even King Haggard. These characters are archetypal. They're Jungian. They have real moral value. Oh, and the bull. He fucking takes away his gun, man. He says, assault weapons are banned. Then finally, we have Schmendrick saying, this is the moment. And the unicorn has to go back to its roots. She can't be human anymore. She has to return to her real form. to fight this beast, she can't be human. She has to be what she is. Oh, and this castle on a precipice, it's about to crumble into the sea. It's like the fucking cliffs of Dover. It's like Ireland and Scotland. And she runs. She's still scared. And it's like King Lear. He tells her, just do something. All you have to do is do something. Just express yourself. Just speak. Fight with your voice. Fight with anything that you have. Whatever you have, fight with it. Because this thing is weaker than it seems. Its flaming bull epic hologram bullshit projection is bullshit. It's more afraid than you are. It's so weak. If you just fight a little bit, you'll kill it right away. Then she attacks. She does something. She makes something. She speaks. She acts. And pushes it back into the sea, where it belongs. When she does it, the others come to help her. All she had to do was set an example. All she had to do was speak. All she had to do was tell the truth. And that's all you have to do. Everyone who's watching this, all three of you, just tell the truth. That's the ultimate weapon. Because all we're fighting in the end is lies. That's the enemy. It's just lies. Every demon, every evil, from every religion, you're fighting bullshit. Why is it a bull? The bull's shit. It's shitting lies. All you have to do is tell the truth. That's it. It's the simplest thing, but it's so goddamn hard, man. Everybody's made mistakes. Everybody's done bad things. I've done terrible things. I've made terrible mistakes. I'm still making them. I'll always make them. We all will. But if you tell the truth, if you just speak, then the castle of evil crumbles. The citadel of lies. And the only thing he can say is, oh, I knew you were the truth. I knew you were going to tell the truth. Good for you, man. You knew it. Is that worth your damnation? Is that worth your death? You're done. You're gone. You've been reabsorbed by the sea. The cycle continues. Poor Molly Grew, my God. She did as much as the unicorn, I'll say that. Molly Grew she's a real one. The friend of mine she reminds me of, man. She did so much and got so little in return. And poor Lear, he's going to go on to make mistakes. He's going to go on to be the protagonist of the Shakespeare play. That's the implication, is this experience for him was so traumatizing and so it fucked him up. He's going to go on to seek innocence in the wrong places. But, unlike Haggard, he won't cause the apocalypse. He'll just fuck up his, his Shakespearean story. He'll be subject to a different kind of test. And if he fails it, he'll fail it to teach himself something. That's what failure does. Failure is a teacher. And that's what this movie says too. What I find so ingratiating and beautiful and right and good about this movie is that it teaches you that sometimes you have to fail. Sometimes You have to fail catastrophically to figure out what's right. That's okay. Whatever the price of figuring out what's good is, figuring out what's good is worth any price, because that's heaven. That's infinite goodness. And finite evil, finite suffering is nothing compared to figuring out what's good and what's right. And I love this conversation. He says, men don't always know when they're happy. And that's what Haggard didn't know. He had this whole kingdom, and he made it evil, and he made it unhappy because he wanted unhappiness. He wanted to punish himself for his obsession with innocence. And she says, heaven has now been corrupted a little by understanding suffering. But it needed that. It needed that communication. We couldn't understand you if we didn't understand your suffering. The unicorn's horn and the magician's hat. I mean, 2 horns, 2 crowns. In that little scattering of stars, she rides away back to her forest, back to her animals and her friends. This movie is rare. This movie is a kind of last unicorn. It's one of the last animated things that is trying to improve your life. It is trying to tell you something fundamentally good. And it makes mistakes, it has its flaws, But this is one of those movies. The reason I'm making a commentary about it is because I don't know how it slipped through. Anything that slips through like this is like a unicorn slipping into reality and trying to tell you innocence is not a commodity. It's not a vampiric currency. It is your soul. And you need to hold on to it in the face of whatever is tempting you to give it up. That doesn't mean you should be an inept child, but it does mean that you should oppose any force that is trying to erase that from your psyche, from who you are. Anyway, guys, at about an hour and 32 minutes, almost an hour and 33 minutes, we are going to say, you know what, I'll wait till 1 hour and 33 minutes. Here we are, right now. This is where I'm going to say thank you for watching. I hope you derived something important and beneficial from this commentary. I enjoyed making it. The things I enjoy making, I enjoy them because I'm morally aligned with them. Keep your hand on your heart. I'm with you. And as always, peace out.